According to bombshell exclusive reporting from The Guardian, Fulton County prosecutors do not intend to offer plea deals to Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, and Rudy Giuliani as part of the prosecution for their efforts to overturn the 2020 election in Georgia. Per the report, this decision hasn't been communicated formally and could still change if prosecutors do shift strategy, but at least for now, it puts on full display who the targets of this prosecution are and who prosecutors are looking to hold accountable. And this strategy is already panning out with the plea deals that have already been reached in Fulton County. Prosecutors have secured cooperation agreements from Trump attorneys Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesebro, and bail bondsman Scott Hall. And according to reporting from CNN, prosecutors have since discussed plea deals with an additional 6 co-defendants who've been charged in the RICO case. And of course, there does remain the possibility that all of the remaining co-defendants, aside of course from Mark Meadows, Donald Trump, and Rudy Giuliani, could strike deals with prosecutors, which is a point that former federal prosecutor Glenn Kirshner discussed on the most recent episode of The Legal Breakdown.
I think the likelihood is high. So thus far, of the 19 charged co-defendants, only 4 have pleaded guilty. That feels a little low. Now, 3 of the 4 are really important players because many of them can bring to bear sharply incriminating evidence against Donald Trump, against Rudy Giuliani, and against Mark Meadows. People like Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesebro and Jenna Ellis. But, buried way down in the article in today's reporting in The Guardian, there was a reference to some information that leads me to conclude that there very well may be some more cooperating witnesses, some more flippers developed very soon. And it's this paragraph in the article. The prosecutors on the Trump case appear convinced that they're close to gaining more cooperating witnesses because in recent weeks, prosecutors privately advised the judge, that would be Judge McAfee, to delay setting a trial date because some co-defendants may soon plead out. And, that is not attributed to anyone. Nobody is on the record by name at this point. But what I can tell you, Brian, is when prosecutors approach a judge and say, Judge, can you hold off for a minute because we reasonably believe we're going to develop some more cooperating witnesses, that is a sure sign that the prosecutors are confident that more people will be flipping soon.
And as always, to see more episodes of The Legal Breakdown, make sure to subscribe to this channel. And here's why this issue of striking deals is especially important right now. Flipping begets flipping. When we see co-defendants in a sprawling RICO case flipping now, it sends a blinking red light to the leader of this alleged criminal enterprise that the walls are closing in. Because let's be clear, the only reason that prosecutors are offering these plea deals is because these co-defendants are bringing them closer to convicting Donald Trump and his top lieutenants. Which raises another complication for these co-defendants who may opt to wait this out. The plea deals that are being offered now may not be so generous as prosecutors continue to get the information they need from those who've already flipped. And let's be clear, they have been generous. Thus far, Hall and Chesebro and Powell and Ellis have all walked away with a few years probation, couple $1,000 fine, and even apology letters. So those remaining co-defendants should recognize that these kind of cushy deals may not be around forever. So the option for those holdouts is either go immediately to Fani Willis's office to salvage whatever plea deal they can get their hands on, or try their hand fighting the Fulton County District Attorney's Office in a case that is only getting stronger and stronger with each subsequent flip. Like, for example, with testimony like this from Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell.
Okay. And at the time period where they were going to start to discuss, what was Dan Scavino's role?
At the time, I believe his title was social media director for the White House. It became deputy chief of staff at the time that the conversation in question took place.
Okay, and when was that?
The conversation was around December 19th of 2020 at the White House Christmas party. And I emphasized him. I thought that the claims and the ability to challenge the election results was essentially over because he said to me in a kind of excited tone, well, we don't care and we're not going to leave. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, the boss, meaning President Trump, and everyone understood the boss, that's what we all called him. He said the boss is not going to leave under any circumstances. We are just going to stay in power. And I said to him, well, it doesn't quite work that way, you realize. And he said, we don't care.
Ms. Powell, were you ever around when anyone told Donald Trump that he had lost the election?
Oh, yeah.
Who?
Pat Cipollone, Eric Hirschman, Derek Lyons all thought he'd lost.
Was that in the December 18th meeting?
Yes.
What was President Trump's reaction when, I guess, this cadre of advisors would say you lost?
It was like, they would say that and then they'd walk out and he'd go, see, this is what I deal with all the time. He was specifically willing to appoint me special counsel. In fact, he looked over at Cipollone 3 different times and said, do I have the authority to name her special counsel? And Cipollone said, yes, you do. And then somebody said, well, she doesn't have a security clearance. So he looked at Cipollone and he said, do I have the authority to give her a security clearance? And Cipollone said, yes, you do. And then about the 3rd time we went through that scenario, Cipollone, I think, said, you can name her anything you want, Mr. President, and nobody's going to pay a bit of attention to it.
Keep in mind, too, that this reporting by The Guardian that prosecutors aren't looking to strike any deals with Trump and his top lieutenants is a signal to those remaining co-defendants that Fani Willis's goal here is to prosecute Donald Trump, meaning the Fulton County DA has their sights set on him and will stop at nothing to hold him to account. And so those remaining co-defendants should know that they remain fighting alongside Trump at their own peril, because prosecutors will take Trump down with or without them. That's probably not a situation they want to see play out alongside Donald Trump. And by the way, this will very likely come to a head sooner rather than later. Fani Willis has already asked Judge McAfee to set Trump's trial date for August 5th, 2024. Willis wrote in her filing, this proposed trial date balances potential delays from defendant Trump's other criminal trials and sister sovereigns and the other defendants' constitutional speedy trial rights, meaning that she's actually building in delays, given that the Trump team will inevitably try to lean on that tactic, as it's been trying to do in all of their cases. So this isn't even the earliest that Fani Willis could have suggested, but because she's building in those delays, it actually becomes more likely that Judge McAfee will accept it. And of course, this is hugely significant, first and foremost, because it would mean that Trump would be tried before the 2024 election in November, meaning that there exists the possibility that if he's convicted in Fulton County, Georgia, he may very well end up in a prison cell at the same time that he's running a presidential campaign. If this date is accepted, Fulton County would join the D.C. trial as being more likely than not to occur before the 2024 election, thereby doubling the chances that Trump could face conviction before November, something that he is clearly horrified of and the justification for his relentless efforts to delay. But the Fulton County trial is actually more dangerous for Trump because remember, even if Trump's Hail Mary play is to win the presidency in 2024 and have his own DOJ end its prosecution of him, he wouldn't be able to do that in Fulton County because that case is a Georgia state prosecution and the federal government isn't able to interfere in a state prosecution. He wouldn't even have the ability to pardon himself if he gets convicted, which means that not only does the Georgia trial pose significant danger to him, but having that trial potentially occur before the election would be worst case scenario for Donald Trump. Also important in this filing is that Fani Willis asks Judge McAfee to set a final plea date of June 21st, 2024. It says, quote, the state will entertain negotiated plea deals up to the final plea date. After the final plea date, the defendants will only have the option of non-negotiated pleas, and the state intends to recommend maximum sentences at any remaining sentencing hearings. Meaning if the other co-defendants try to negotiate a plea deal, they would have to do it by June 21st. After that, they'll all be subject to the maximum sentences. Meaning if there wasn't already a mad dash to Fani Willis's office, there will be one soon. So while nothing is guaranteed, we are all but certain to see more flips in this case and to see them sooner rather than later. And yes, we've got 4 flips thus far, and yes, there is reporting suggesting that a number of conversations are happening right now, but frankly, given the evidence against Trump, that is the bare minimum in terms of what we can expect. At this rate, we're more likely to see a number closer to 16 plea deals when all is said and done. Meanwhile, knowing that a plea deal isn't on the table for him, all Donald Trump can do is sit idly by and watch as his one-time allies and confidants jump ship to save themselves. And eventually, Trump will be left completely alone to fend for himself, in a case that is being reinforced by the cooperation of the very people Trump entrusted along the way. So if you're wondering why the bus ride feels so bumpy, it's because Donald Trump is currently under it. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.